guys, and welcome back to our channel. So, as many of you may have seen, last week we had men answer questions about consent and sexual assault. This week we decided to go and ask women the same questions and kind of see the similarities and differences between their responses. So I'm going to introduce our intern and her, well, I guess it's your second video debut now.
Yes, it is. So my name is Mallory and I am our summer intern at RCA, and I'm also a volunteer and victim advocate.
Yes, and we love having Mallory, and she's going to help me out with this video, and we're going to go ahead and jump right into question number 1. So this was an anonymous questionnaire that we had asked a few individuals to find out. It was anyone who responded to our Instagram and said that they were interested in helping us out with this video. The ones who were not comfortable with their voices being recorded just kind of filled out a Google document, but we actually had 2 individuals who were cool with us using their voices, and we got their recorded answers. So we're going to read you the ones that were given to us by Google Docs, but then we're going to put in the audio of the other ones that we received. So I'm going to go ahead and let Mallory ask what question 1 was and look at our responses.
Okay, so for question 1, what were you told growing up, either in high school or college, about sexual assault?
So the first answer, which is answer A, said that honestly, her parents didn't tell her anything. She saw it on TV, watching shows like Criminal Minds or like the news or something. So I'm going to go ahead and put in the audio right now of what answer B said to this question.
Honestly, my parents didn't really tell me anything. I would see it on TV, like watching shows like Criminal Minds or the news or something.
So person C said nothing in high school. When I got to college, all student athletes attended a sexual assault consent meeting every year with a representative from the counseling center. This really helped me develop a better understanding of sexual assault and consent.
Thank you, Mallory, for sharing C's answer. So now I'm going to go on to our 4th answer, which is answer D. D says that all growing up, she was taught that no one had the authority to touch her in any private area, or really in general without her say-so. I was taught about consent, and if someone did it against your will, if you were not in your right mind, the age limits, with sexual actions such as intercourse, touching, but not limited to, or forced upon you, or you did not agree to that happening, that is sexual assault. Anything unwanted. I was also taught that if you do engage in activity, you can say no at any time. A yes does not mean a yes for everything, and not having a no does not mean a yes. All right, so now we're going to hear from our 5th and final answer, answer E. Answer E chose to do an audio recording, so I'm going to go ahead and insert that here.
So by my family, I really wasn't told very much about sexual assault. Growing up, I was kind of taught more just how to avoid it, and always making sure that I'm keeping myself safe. So never going anywhere alone. Always when you're walking to your car at night, keep your keys in your hand and look around, make sure nobody's following you, stuff like that. So it was more of I guess prevention, but never so much on the topic. And I would say when I got to college, I had some friends that were in campus outreach, and we had some different conversations about it. So I learned some more, I guess, in college, but not really much in high school or anything like that.
So Mallory, what did you think about all of the answers for A? Did that surprise you? Or is it kind of what you expected?
I think that it really shows that there isn't a lot of information that students in general are given about sexual assault, and especially in my experience, it wasn't really talked about when I was in high school. I learned a little bit of it when I was going into college, but not anything super in depth. And I think it's really important that people in general learn these things so that they know what to look out for in all different kinds of experiences, and so that they know what is and isn't okay behavior.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I definitely agree. I know in my high school, we barely even got sex education. So consent education was off the table. I didn't even know what a rape kit was, what sexual assault was, till I started volunteering with rape counselors. So I definitely think this is not common knowledge, especially what to do if it happens, and how common it is and prevalent it is in our society.
Yes.
So I definitely think that we need more education.
We do.
But all right, let's go on to question number 2.
Question number 2 is, what do you think consent is?
So our answer number A said that she believes that consent is an undeniable yes, a fully spoken yes. And again, we're going to insert audio of what B says that she thinks consent is.
Both people of sound mind agreeing.
And answer C said, I find this to be somewhat difficult question because the way that you consent may look different based on your comfortability and relationship status. But generally speaking, each person verbally agrees to the act you are partaking in. Consenting to one act does not mean you consent to another.
So now we're going to go on to answer D. She said that she believes consent is a fully agreed upon yes to any activity. Touching, kissing, sexual intercourse, etc. in any time. So not having a no doesn't mean a yes. You can say no at any time, even if the activity has already been engaged, you have that power. I'm going to insert again audio E and what answer E had to say about what she thinks that consent is.
I think consent is just like making sure that everyone is comfortable with the situation at hand. Like, does each person feel okay with what's going on? Do you yourself feel okay with what's going on? And then also like having like a verbal agreement or like consensus that both people are in agreement and okay with what's going on. Just kind of giving and receiving that verbal okay that everybody is good with what's going on.
All right, so Mallory, what do you think consent is?
I really agree with the answers that we got today. A consent it has to be an undeniable yes. You cannot be under the influence of drugs or alcohol. That is not consenting. Just because you consent to one act does not mean that you are okay with another act going on. It needs to be an ongoing agreement in the situation that you in, that are both partners are okay with what is happening. And so I love that the people that we had answer these questions all had very similar answers and know what they believe consent is.
Yes, definitely. I agree 100% with what they said and what you said. I did like that one of them said that it was something that even if you've engaged in the activity, you can stop at any time and that you do have that power. So I think that's really important to know that your consent is retractable and it has to be given each time with each action. So,
yes.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to question 3 and see what our answerers said about that.
And so for question number 3 is, were you ever pressured by any of your friends to hook up with someone who had been drinking?
So yeah, we really kind of saw that everyone in this video and who answered this question really said no. Some did say that they had not had a personal experience, but they knew friends who had a personal experience with this. I think that this isn't really surprising because I feel like it would be more common for a male to pressure another friend into hooking up with someone who was under the influence than a female. So I don't think any of these answers really surprised me. What about you, Mallory?
Yeah, I agree. That was what I was kind of expecting to hear like from these respondents.
Okay, awesome. Well, let's go on to question 4.
Okay, so question 4. Is it consensual if the person doesn't say no?
Answer A said no, it is not. Answer B, I'm going to insert their audio right here.
No.
Answer C said no. The absence of a no does not mean yes.
Answer D said absolutely not. A no does not mean yes. It must be a full yes to every and each stage of activity and both parties in their right mind for it to be consensual. I like that answer. And I'm going to also insert answer E's audio and what her response was right here.
I don't think so, no. Because like in that moment they can be stunned like with fear of what's going on or not be able to process like what's happening. And so sometimes they can't like speak or they might respond differently if they're like given the choice verbally.
Okay, so what do you think about this question? Is it consensual if the person doesn't say no? I kind of definitely like agree with everything that the women have said, but I know in the male video, a lot of the guys were saying like it depends on the relationship with the person, because once you have a more advanced sexual relationship, then things might be different. Your consent might be different. It's easy to read body cues and stuff, which I also agree with. So I think that they both had good points, but again, it's always easier to err on the side of caution, especially if you don't know the person. I do think that with a relationship or with like a different relationship with a different person, there are going to be different rules and there are going to be different ways to consent and not consent.
Yes, I agree with that too. And also that's why it can be very tricky in intimate relationships because you've already established a relationship and a sexual relationship with them, and so it might be difficult to say no. Or in other in maybe like intimate partner violence situations, you might be scared to say no out of concern for your safety, and you might be concerned that if you do say no, it could result in some anger or violence from the person, and then maybe make it worse in that situation.
Because then consent under the influence of coercion or intimidation is not consent. So yeah, that was a really good point about domestic violence. All right, let's go on to question number 5.
5. If someone comes over to your house after a night out, does that mean they want to have sex with you and or you can have sex with them?
Answer A says no. Answer B, I'm going to insert their clip of what they said here.
No, not unless they consent.
Answer C, no. The action in itself does not mean that they want to have sex.
Answer D said no. Just because someone comes over after dinner or a night out on the town doesn't mean he, they, you, y'all are obligated nor want to have sex with the other person. You can have over company without that being the main agenda of the evening. The other person may just want to relax and be in their PJs and watch a movie and eat popcorn. Communication here is key. Answer E, I'm going to insert her audio of what she said here as well.
No, absolutely not.
So this one, what do you think?
I definitely agree with the answers because you have only consented to going to their house. You have not consented to any kind of other sexual behavior. That should not be an expectation because, like you said, there has to be communication from both parties, and that's something that needs to be discussed when you're either there or when you're considering going to their house maybe. But yeah, like I said, there has to be consent there in the situation too.
Yeah, definitely. I think there's this connotation that when you go home with someone that you're going to sleep with them, but just agreeing to go over to someone's house after you've been out does not necessarily mean that you want to have sex with them or even do anything else with them. So yeah, I definitely agree. There still has to be communication and consent to do more. All right, so let's go on to question number 6.
So number 6 is making out consent.
Answer A says no. Answer B, insert audio here.
No.
Answer C, it is consent to make out, but not consent to do anything else.
Answer D said that if the two parties are making out and both have agreed to it with a yes, then yes. If it was a forced upon by either party, then no. Also, side note, if the person doesn't verbally say no, but they pull away, that is still a no. Body language, people. Pay attention to both verbal and non-verbal cues. I'm also going to insert the audio of answer E right here as well.
No. I think consent is only given when it's asked. So I feel like you have to ask specifically what you want consent for.
So I feel like because of how the question is stated, I think some people might have gotten a little bit confused. I think the question was alluding to is making out consent to do anything else. Some of them I think kind of got that, but then some I think, again, were a little confused about like the question. But for the most part, people were saying, just because you're making out is not consent to do anything else. The only thing that you're doing or consenting to while making out is literally making out, which was also really similar to the guys' answers. They were like, it's not consent to do anything else, it's just making out.
Yeah, I agree. And I think this is also one of those other like tricky situations where some people have the misconception that if you're already engaging in some kind of sexual activity that it gives you that you're able to like do other sexual things with them. But again, it goes back to like the absence of a no does not mean yes, and that you still have to keep obtaining that consent from the person to make it okay if you continue to go to the next sexual step, and just making sure and checking in with that person verbally and non-verbally that your behavior that you're doing with them is okay.
Yes, definitely. I definitely agree. All right, let's go on to question number 7.
Okay, so number 7. Do you ever feel pressured to have, want, enjoy sex before you felt ready to?
Answer A said yes. Answer B, insert audio here, what they said.
No.
C, personally, no.
Answer D had a long response for this one. She said, yes. For some reason in this generation, it's almost expected to have sex with someone. Society itself created a stigma that it's a must-do, almost like a you have to do this to be anointed or something. I've been shamed over the course of my life for not having sex with people. They said I didn't know what I was missing. Or everyone else has, why haven't you? Oh, come on, you know you want to, it feels so good. Seriously, enough. Absolutely enough. 1, I didn't truly love that person. 2, I made a commitment to God saying I wouldn't until after marriage. 3, I wasn't ready. And honestly, it's none of anyone else's business to try and pressure you into doing something you don't want to do. There is more to relationships and intimacy than sex. And then I'm going to include answer E's audio here as well to what she said.
Yes.
So I really enjoyed answer D's response on this one. I feel like she kind of hits the nail on the head that in society, it's so much emphasis on sex. We see it in movies, we see it in TV. It's just constantly sex, sex, sex thrown at us. So I think it definitely makes you feel like if you're not doing it, you're missing out. I also think that this question, did you ever feel pressure to enjoy sex before you felt ready? I think that if everyone was kind of being honest with themselves, it's a yes. I don't know anyone who's not felt pressure to have or want or enjoy sex. And even when they are with like a loving partner, sometimes it can be difficult to enjoy the sex or feel pressure to do something that they don't want to do. So I think this one was interesting, and I think, yeah. What do you think about this one?
I agree. I think with the gender stereotypes with women, especially, like women are taught to like be submissive and not give our opinions and not talk about things. And so I do agree with what Faith said, that I think a lot of women have felt pressured in these situations to enjoy sex and everything because they're scared of communicating what they need to say because of the way that their partner might take it. And so I think that might keep a lot of women, especially, from being able to say how they're feeling about what they're doing.
Yeah. And I think on the other hand too, we kind of see males as hypersexual. Like that's a stereotype we put on them. So you have guys making fun of their friends who don't want to have sex until later in life, don't have sex till they're married. Like it's a big thing, and it's kind of like an expectation that men want sex and they want sex all the time. So when they're not living up to that stereotype, I think sometimes they get made fun of. Even like partners will be upset with them, being like, I don't understand. Do you not find me attractive? Do you not want me? So I definitely think it affects both genders. And I think that it is a societal issue, and I think it needs to be talked about.
I agree.
So that's why we're here. All right, let's go on to question number 8.
Okay, so question number 8. If you have had oral, vaginal, anal sex with someone before, does that mean you can do that act every time you were intimate with them? For example, you and a guy have been hooking up consistently. You have vaginal and oral sex with him. One night he has been drinking and you start to make out and begin to have vaginal sex with him. He didn't say no. The next morning he said he doesn't remember having sex. Is that okay?
Answer A said, no, I don't think that's okay. Answer B, audio, will be inserted here.
No.
Answer C, no, because they were not in the state of mind to consent.
Answer D said no, because that person was not in their right mind and they did not say yes at each stage. And then I'm also going to insert answer E's audio right here.
No, I think consent should be given every time, unless like you have a relationship with that person where it's been like pre-discussed that like y'all are okay every time with such and such, unless like said otherwise.
So this one I think is kind of tricky. I feel like it's almost a double-barreled question. Like there's almost being two things being asked. But I think in the end, people kind of understood, you know, like just because an act has been done once before with this person, it doesn't automatically give you the right to do that act every time you're with them.
I actually really like this question because it's from like a guy's perspective, and it's because, you know, another misconception is that guys don't experience sexual assault as much as women, but they do. And so I like that this is taking the male's perspective into account, and it's saying that he also has to consent. And with him being, if he was drinking, like one of the respondents said, he wasn't in the state of mind to consent.
Yes, definitely. I definitely agree. So So let's move on to question number 9.
So question number 9, do you feel comfortable asking for consent or feel like it isn't sexy?
Answer A said no, not necessarily. I think that it is really easier to be like in the middle of making out, do you want to have sex? And it be a yes or no. It's good to get like 100%. Asking it constantly or every 5 seconds would be a mood killer. Then I'm going to insert answer B's audio right here.
I think it's just so uncommon, it's just not expected, which is sad. I don't think it's uncomfortable, it's just awkward because people aren't ready for it.
Okay, and answer C, I find asking for consent sexy and comforting because each person is showing the other that they are mature and respectful and they are looking at you as a person, not just thinking about sex itself.
Answer D said honestly it should not be, but I think it is for a lot of people. People are afraid to self-advocate for themselves out of fear of disappointment of someone else if they say no. I believe consent should be comforting and something that should be talked about. It should be prevalent in any relationship, not just friends, boyfriend, girlfriend, engaged. It goes for married couples too. Consent doesn't stop just because you're married. Both parties should speak out about and have consent with a hard yes and and monitor those verbal and nonverbal cues and body languages. This shows respect and support for one another. And then I'm going to put in answer E's question here.
No, I think for me as a female, I feel like it's more of a turn on to be asked because it means that they care more about you.
Do you think that it's uncomfortable asking for consent or feel like it isn't sexy?
I don't think so at all. I personally do think that it is sexy to ask for consent, especially because it shows that your partner is being emotionally mature and that they are taking your comfortability and your safety into account and making sure that you are okay with each act that keeps happening. And you know, I agree with what the person said, like maybe asking every 5 seconds, like that might change things, but you do need to ask throughout the entire sexual experience.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I liked what E said when she said that it's more of a turn on to be asked because it means they care about you. I think in any healthy sexual experience, you should be communicating with the other person. And this goes hand in hand with consent. Asking them, you know, does this feel good? Is this okay? Is it okay if I touch you here? Is it okay if I do this? I think that incorporating consent would actually make the sexual experience even more enjoyable for both parties. And it doesn't have to be a mood killer or something that like is uncomfortable or awkward. I mean, I definitely think it's something you have to practice. Because it might be a little bit weird at first, especially if you're not used to doing it. But I think in the end, it would be 100% more awkward to be standing with that person in the courtroom 9 months later. So definitely think that consent should be sexy and should be asked for. So let's go on to question number 10.
Okay, so question number 10. Any other thoughts or questions about consent or sexual assault?
Answer A said that she thinks consent is still really important when you're married. Just because you are married doesn't necessarily mean you're in the mood or want to. It is a different type of consent, but still the same thing. I'm going to include answer B's audio response here.
No.
Okay, and answer C. Consent is necessary at any stage of a relationship or hookup. Even though it may be awkward, I find it better to have a discussion about sex and what you like or don't like before engaging in any sexual activities. It helps build a foundation for communication and lets each person know what is acceptable and enjoyable.
So answer D said that sex should be something to look forward to, something meaningful with a person whom you love and care about. It should be on both of your terms. Consent is very important in all relationships at any age and at any stage of sexual activity engagement. Sexual assault is any unwanted touching. If you become in a situation where you are unable to consent or you are assaulted, please don't wait. Speak out, reach out for help. Take it from me, someone who has been there just over a year ago. It is hard. Seek therapy. There are so many resources out there to help you. Don't keep it bottled in. Don't suppress it and avoid it like I did. It will all come pouring out eventually, and every wall you put up will come crashing down. And that's a rough spot to be in. Healing is hard and difficult, but it's oh so worth it. Don't let someone else's stupid decision take your peace away from you. You didn't deserve this. The way you dressed did not make you deserve this. You having one too many drinks, you didn't deserve that. Nothing you did or wore made you deserve anything. Someone decided upon themselves to take that from you. But don't let them take your life away. You've got this. You have supporters. You are not alone. You are loved and you are seen and you are heard. And then I'm going to insert answer E's response here.
No, I don't think so.
All right. So what do we think about those comments, about just anything in general, what we've gone over today? I think that we've had some really good responses and I was pretty impressed with some of the knowledge, but also just like understanding that these people had.
Yes, I agree. And I absolutely loved Answer D's response to this question, because it is so important that you're able to find a support system if this does happen to you, and know that, you know, we believe you, you're supported, we care about you, and that they're, you know, rape counselors, like we are there for you if you're ever in that situation. And so I think it's great that she was able to communicate that like to our listeners today. And
Definitely.
yeah.
I really liked what they all said. I think I know Answer A personally, and she is married, and she said I could share this as why I'm doing that. So I asked her specifically to touch on consent in marriage, just because I feel like it is like a whole different ballgame. But I did like how she said, you know, sometimes you're not in the mood or you don't want to do it, and that's okay. I mean, you always still have to get that consent from that partner. And if you're in a marriage and you're in a loving and healthy relationship, then that should be okay to say no. So I really thought that that was great. And I also liked how everyone just really emphasized the importance of consent in relationships and that communication. I feel like that was a really big theme throughout the thing. I think it was definitely more of a theme, and there seemed to be a little bit more knowledge behind it than when we asked the guys, which I think is interesting. And I don't know why that is. Maybe it's girls kind of, or women feel like they take it upon themselves to do a little bit more like searching about this like sexual assault, this topic, just because it does happen so much more disproportionately to women, or they just had experience, or their friends. But I definitely thought it was really interesting, the emphasis put on consent on this one based on the other one. But yeah, I was impressed with the answers, and I'm glad that we got to talk to these people and kind of see where their heads were at with this.
Yeah, I completely agree. And we really, really appreciate these responses that we've gotten today. And yeah, like Faith was saying, I think it's interesting that we had a very like unifying response of that these respondents understand what consent is. And even in all of these like sometimes tricky situations that we presented in these questions, they still were able to understand what consent would look like in this situation.
Yeah, I definitely agree. All right, y'all. Well, thank you so much for watching. We would like to, again, thank all the people who took the time out of their day to answer these questions for us. It really helped us build like a good video. And I think that we all kind of can take something away from this and learn from it. But consent is sexy. Please remember that. And we will see you guys next week. Bye.
Bye.